Hello, hi, wherever you may be watching me from, how is your day going? So this is the first session for the Reader's Circle Season 1. My name is Queen Okeke, and for Season 1, we're going to be reviewing and studying this book, A Long Walk to Water by Linda Sue Park. Reader's Circle is the reason why we're here today, and it's an online reading community for young readers and young people like you, aged 13 to 19. And this is the first session that we're having in season 1. This is recorded so that whoever was unable to join the live class, the live session, can catch up with the previous class and then move ahead with the rest of the class. So what we're going to be doing is to guide you through carefully selected historical fiction that has compelling stories that are supposed to inspire you and help you think critically and have also more meaningful conversations and guide you in the paths of empathy, resilience, and building a stronger character. But needless to say, we're also going to be having a lot and lots of fun. So it's going to last for 6 weeks, and each session is going to focus on one book. Like I said earlier, for this particular season 1, for the teens, A Long Walk to Water is the book in focus. Now, the sessions are going to be held online, completely online, via Zoom and WhatsApp. We'll have some things that we'll do on WhatsApp, but the majority of the things are going to be on Zoom. So you can actually join and connect from anywhere that you are in the world. That's the whole idea, and it happens every Saturday from 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon. So we usually we'll be having 6 different sessions that will last those 6 weeks. So to start, we will have the group sessions. Then after each group session, the following week would have a one-on-one check-in where you would have a sit down with me online again, and then you tell me how your experience has been reading the book and share your thoughts or your questions, and we'll rub minds and then read together as well a bit. Then the next class would now be a group session again. So that's basically how it goes: group session, one-on-one check-in, group session, one-on-one check-in, till we complete the book, have the class discussions and activities, and then at the end of the book, you let us know what you think, how interesting you found the book, what new thing that you got to know that you did not know before, how you see the world now, different from how you maybe saw it before. And yeah, so that's what we are doing. So let's get started. Like I said, my name is Queen Okeke, and I'll be guiding you through this session. So let's take a quick review about what some people have to say about A Long Walk to Water by Linda Sue Park. So some people say here that this is what they feel about the book, that it tells an incredible story of Salvador interspaced with fictionalized daily struggles of a young girl named Nya. The book masterfully weaves their two lives together to show how a single act of determination can transform thousands of lives. Does this sound interesting? So here's a summary of the book. So there are two stories, right? So two eras. So the novel runs on two parallel timelines in the region now known as South Sudan. So there's Salva's story, which starts in 1985. Now, Salva is an 11-year-old Dinka boy who is sitting in his village classroom when gunfire erupts outside. The Second Sudanese Civil War has arrived at his doorstep, and he's now forced to flee into the wild without his family. Salva joins thousands of other displaced children, historically known as the Lost Boys of Sudan. Nya's story, which starts in 2008. Nya is an 11-year-old Nua girl. Her entire life is dictated by the environment. Every single day, she walks 8 hours back and forth to a pond just to fetch muddy, contaminated water for her family's survival. Not clean water. Salva's journey of survival. The timeline follows a grueling years-long journey across East Africa on foot. He faces unimaginable hardships. He walks across the blistering Akobo Desert, surviving on pure determination. He expresses deep personal grief when his friend Mariel is killed by a lion and his beloved uncle Jewer is murdered by rebels. He stays in a crowded refugee camp in Ethiopia for 6 years until a violent political shift forces the refugees out. Salva bravely leads over 1,500 young boys just like himself across the dangerous crocodile-infested Gilo River and walks for months to find safety at a UN refugee camp in Kenya. A new beginning and a new mission. Now, as a young man, Salva is chosen for a refugee resettlement program and he flees to Rochester, New York, to live with a kind adoptive American family. He learns English, he goes to school, and adjusts to a completely foreign world. Now, much later, in fact, years later, he receives shocking news. His biological father is alive in a Sudanese clinic, suffering from a severe waterborne illness. Now, traveling back to see him, Salva is deeply moved by his father's suffering and the plight of his people. He returns to America with a fierce mission to raise money to drill water wells in South Sudan. The intersection of this is that the two timelines beautifully collide at the end of the book. That is the most interesting thing about the book. Now, in 2008, a drilling crew arrives at Inya's village and they drill deep into the clay ground and fresh, clean water shoots up into the air. Now, with a stable water supply, Inya's life changes forever. She no longer has to walk for water. A school can finally be built and the village can thrive. Inya walks up to the leader of the drilling crew to thank him. He introduces himself as, guess who? You'll find that at the end of the season. Let's keep going. Now, let's actually get into the book. So I'll be reading the first couple of chapters so that you can get the details of what actually happened. It sounds interesting already, right? So yeah, this is the book, like I said earlier. Yeah, A Long Walk to Water. A very interesting read, I must say. And here you have the map. Can you see that? It's bright. And the book is dedicated to Ben. Again, she says. But of course, you get your own copy through your parents' emails or WhatsApp number that they have already shared. You should already have your copies of the book, so let's read along with me. So, Chapter 1, South Sudan, 2008. Going was easy. Going, the big plastic container held only air. Tall for 11 years, Nya could switch the handle from one hand to the other, swing the container by her side, or cradle it in both arms. She could even drag it behind her, bumping it against the ground and raising a tiny cloud of dust with each step. There was little weight going. There was only heat. The sun already baking the air, even though it was long before noon. It would take her half the morning. She didn't stop on the way. Heat, time, and thorns. Southern Sudan, 1985. Salva sat cross-legged on the bench. He kept his head turned toward the front, hands folded, back perfectly straight. Everything about him was paying attention to the teacher. Everything except his eyes and his mind. His eyes kept flicking toward the window, through which he could see the road home, just a little while longer. A few minutes more, and he will be walking on that road. The teacher droned on with a lesson about the Arabic language. Salva spoke the language of his Dinka tribe at home, but in school he learned Arabic, the official language of the Sudanese government, far away to the north. 11 years on his last birthday, Salva was a good student. He already knew the lesson, which was why he was letting his mind wander down the road ahead of his body. Salva was well aware of how lucky he was to be able to go to school. He could not attend the entire year because during the dry season, his family moved away from their village. But during the rainy season, he could walk to the school, which was only half an hour from his home. Salva's father was a successful man. He owned many head of cattle and worked as their village's judge, an honored, respected position. Salva had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. As each boy reached the age of about 10 years, he was sent off to school. Salva's older brothers, Arik and Ring, had gone to school before him last year. It had been Salva's turn. His 2 sisters, Ekit and Agnat, did not go to school. Like the other girls in the village, they stayed home and learned from their mothers how to keep house. Most of the time, Salva was glad to be able to go to school. But some days he wished he were still back at home, herding cattle. He and his brothers, along with the sons of his father's other wives, would walk with the herds to the water holes. Where there was good grazing. Their responsibilities depended on how old they were. Salva's younger brother, Kyo, was taking care of just 1 cow. Like his brothers before him, he would be in charge of more cows every year. Before Salva had begun going to school, he had helped look after the entire herd and his younger brother as well. The boys had to keep an eye on the cows, but the cows did not really need much care. They had that that left plenty of time to play. Salva and the other boys made cows out of clay. The more cows you made, the richer you were, but they had to be fine, healthy animals. It took time to make a lump of clay look like a good cow. The boys would challenge each other to see who would make the most and best cows. Other times they would practice with their bows and arrows, shooting at small animals or birds. They weren't very good at this yet, but once in a while they got lucky. Those were the best days. When one of them managed to kill a ground squirrel or rabbit, a guinea hen or goose, the boys' aimless play halted and there was suddenly a lot of work to do. Some of them gathered wood to build a fire. Others helped clean and dress the animal. Then they roasted it on the fire. None of this took place quietly. Salva had his own opinion of how the fire should be built and how long the meat needed to cook, and so did each of the others. The fire needs to be bigger. It won't last long enough. We need more wood. No, it's big enough already. Quick! Turn it over before it's ruined. The juices dripped and sizzled. A delicious smell filled the air. Finally, they couldn't wait 1 second longer. There was only enough for each boy to have a few bites, but oh, how delicious those bites were. Salvo swallowed and turned his eyes back toward the teacher. He wished he hadn't recalled those times because the memories made him hungry. Milk. When he got home, he would have a bowl of fresh milk, which would keep his belly full until supper time. He knew just how it would be. His mother would rise from her work grinding mill and walk around to the side of the house that faced the road. She would shade her eyes with one hand, searching for him. From far off, he would see her bright orange headscarf, and he would raise his arm in greeting. By the time he reached the house, she would have gone inside to get his bowl of milk ready for him. Crack! The noise had come from outside. Was it a gunshot or just a car backfiring? The teacher stopped talking for a moment. Every head in the room turned toward the window. Nothing. Silence. The teacher cleared his throat, which drew the boys' attention to the front of the room again. He continued the lesson from where he had left off. Then, crack! Pop! Pop! Crack! Ack! 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 Gunfire. Everyone down! The teacher shouted. Some of the boys moved at once, ducking their heads and hunching over. Others sat frozen, their eyes and mouths wide open. Salva covered his head with his hands and looked from side to side in panic. The teacher edged his way along the wall to the window. He took a quick peek outside. The gunfire had stopped. But now people were shouting and running. Go quickly, all of you, the teacher said. His voice was low and urgent. Into the bush. Do you hear me? Not home. Don't run home. They will be going to the villages. Stay away from the villages. Run into the bush. He went to the door and looked out again. Go! All of you! Now! He screamed. The war had started 2 years earlier. Salva did not understand much about it, but he knew that rebels from the southern part of Sudan, where he and his family lived, were fighting against the government, which was based in the north. Most of the people who lived in the north were Muslim, and the government wanted all of Sudan to become a Muslim country, a place where the beliefs of Islam were followed. But the people in the south were of different religions and did not want to be forced to practice Islam. They began fighting for independence from the north. The fighting was scattered all around southern Sudan, and now the war had come to where Salva lived. The boys scrambled to their feet. Some of them were crying. The teacher began hurrying the students out the door. Salva was near the end of the line. He felt his heart beating so hard that his pulse pounded in his throat and ears. He wanted to shout, "I need to go home. I must go home." But the words were blocked by the wild thumping in his throat. When he got to the door, he looked out. Everyone was running. Men, children, women carrying babies. The air was full of dust that had been kicked up by all those running feet. Some of the men were shouting and waving guns. Salva saw all this with one glance. Then he was running too, running as hard as he could into the bush, away from home. That was chapter 1. Shall we proceed to chapter 2? Chapter 2, Southern Sudan, 2008. He had put the container down and sat on the ground. She always tried not to step on the spiky plants that grew along the path, but their thorns littered the ground everywhere. She looked at the bottom of her foot. There it was, a big thorn that had broken off right in the middle of her heel. Iya pushed at the skin around the thorn. Then she picked up another thorn and used it to poke and prod at the first one. She pressed her lips together against the pain. Southern Sudan, 1985. Boom! Salva turned and looked. Behind him, a huge black cloud of smoke rose. Flames darted out of its base. Overhead, a jet plane veered away like a sleek, evil bird. In the smoke and dust, he couldn't see the school building anymore. He tripped and almost fell. No more looking back. It slowed him down. Salva lowered his head and he ran. He ran until he could not run anymore. Then he walked for hours until the sun was nearly gone from the sky. Other people were walking too. There were so many of them that they couldn't all be from the school village. They must have come from the whole area. As Salva walked, the same thoughts kept going through his head in rhythm with his steps. Where are we going? Where is my family? When will I see them again? The people stopped walking when it grew too dark to see the path. At first, everyone stood around uncertainly, speaking in tense whispers or silent with fear. Then, some of the men gathered and talked for a few moments. One of them called out, "Villages! Group yourselves by villages." You will find someone you know. Salva wandered around until he heard the words, Laun Arik, the village of Laun Arik. Here. Relief flooded through him. That was his village. He hurried toward the sound of the voice. A dozen or so people stood in a loose group at the side of the road. Salva scanned their faces. There was no one from his family. He recognized a few people, a woman with a baby, two men, a teenage girl, but no one he knew well. Still, it was comforting to see them. They spent the night there. They spent the night right there by the road, the men taking shifts to keep watch. The next morning, they began walking again. Salva stayed in the midst of the crowd with the other villagers from Lao Arik. In the early afternoon, he saw a large group of soldiers up ahead. Word passed through the crowd. It's the rebels! The rebels, those who were fighting against the government. Salva passed several rebel soldiers waiting by the side of the road. Each of them held a big gun. The guns were not pointed at the crowd, but even so, the soldiers seemed fierce and watchful. Some of the rebels then joined the back of the line. Now the villagers were surrounded. What are they going to do to us? Where is my family? Late in the day, the villagers arrived at the rebel camp. The soldiers ordered them to separate into two groups. Men in one group, women and children, and the elderly in the other. Teenage boys, it seemed, were considered men. For boys who looked to be only a few years older than Salva were joining the men's group. Salva hesitated for a moment. He was only 11, but he was the son of an important family. He was Salva Mawen Irik, from the village named for his grandfather. His father always told him to act like a man, to follow the example of his older brothers, and in turn set a good example for Kyo. Salva took a few steps towards the men. Hey! A soldier approached Salva and raised his gun. Salva froze. All he could see was the gun's huge barrel, black and gleaming, as it moved toward his face. The end of the barrel touched his chin. Salva felt his knees turn to water. He closed his eyes. If I die now, I will never see my family again. Somehow, this thought strengthened him enough to keep him from collapsing in terror. He took a deep breath and opened his eyes. The soldier was holding the gun with only one hand. He was not aiming it. He was using it to lift Salva's chin so he could get a better look at his face. Over there, the soldier said. He moved the gun and pointed it toward the group of women and children. You are not a man yet. Don't be in such a hurry. He laughed and clapped Salva on the shoulder. Salva scurried over to the women's side. The next morning, the rebels moved on from the camp. The village men were forced to carry supplies, guns and mortars, shells, radio equipment. Salva watched as one man protested that he did not want to go with the rebels. A soldier hit him in the face with the butt of a gun. The man fell to the ground, bleeding. After that, no one objected. The men shouldered the heavy equipment and left the camp. Everyone else began walking again. They went in the opposite direction from the rebels. From wherever the rebels went, there was sure to be fighting. Salva stayed with the group from Launarik. It was smaller now, without the men, and except for the infants, Salva was the only child. That evening, they found a barn in which to spend the night. Salva tossed endlessly. Salva tossed restlessly in the itchy hay. Where are we going? Where is my family? When will I see them again? It took him a long time to fall asleep. Even before he was fully awake, Salva could feel that something was wrong. He lay very still with his eyes closed, trying to sense what it might be. Finally, he sat up and opened his eyes. No one else was in the barn. Salva stood up quickly, that for a moment he felt dizzy. He stood up so quickly that for a moment he felt dizzy. He rushed to the door and looked out. Nobody, nothing. They had left him. He was alone. That's the end of chapter 2. So that was for you to catch up with the first session of the season 1 for the Readers Circle online readers community. So what you do is that you read the next few chapters on your own in preparation to our next session, which will be your one-on-one check-in with me. Watch out on the WhatsApp group. I'm going to be dropping a link for you to select your time slot of 15 minutes for your one-on-one session with me during the course of the week, so that on Saturday between 10:30 and 12 o'clock we would have the one-on-one check-in session with everyone, just one after the other. I'll share the link with you and everyone else in the group chats. Remind your parents to check the group chat, or if it's your phone, you can also check, and also you can check your emails as well if we have your email. At the next group session that we'll be having some class activity that we'll do as individuals and as a group. So we'll do more than just read the next couple of chapters. We'll also have some discussion questions to rub minds about some of the things that you are seeing here that might sound strange or that you're already familiar with in the next session. And of course, if you're yet to get your copy of the book, please reach out. If you have any challenge downloading it, please reach out so that we can get you reading as soon as possible. So see you at the next session. Take care. This is Queen Okeke. Till next time. Bye.